And here we are. We're back with the Penn Oakland podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done it in a while, but that's why it's breaking news because we're doing it now. Emil Guillermo here, a member of the board of Penn Oakland,
Mm-hmm.
and with the co-founder of Penn Oakland, Ishmael Reed. Hi, Ishmael.
I'm doing fine, Emil. Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen so many things that you've written in social media, and I thought it's time to get you on so we can talk about all the things that are on your mind. The
Mm-hmm.
first thing that came to mind is the awarding of the Pulitzer Prize in fiction to Percival Everett for his novel James,
Mm-hmm.
and you pointed out that Penn Oakland was among the first to award Everett for the novel James,
Mm-hmm.
which
Well,
is
not for James, but for two other novels.
yeah.
And although we are recognized by the Times of India, because occasionally Penn Oakland makes the international press, like in Cairo and Iran and other places,
Mhm.
but we get ignored by the Times of New York, which is like the hometown, like a small town newspaper in Manhattan. So I just wanted to put that out there
Yeah.
because people would say, "Well, you upset because you didn't get one." That's how the colonials. I mean, we picked out this native and these other natives we ignored, and they're upset. So
Mhm.
we know how the whole thing works because we lived under colonial administrations. So I think I have a lot of admiration for Percival. He and I shared not shared, but we received the Ansville Wolf Awards a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
I found him to be a very good person, very person of good character, and I think integrity. So his award has been tainted because the board overlooked or rejected the jury's recommendations. Now, Viet got upset because I said that the jury is mostly white with some tokens, and I can understand why he would object to being called a token. But that's how they work. The juries don't really run those things. Those things are corporate awards, and they're backed by a lot of money, like Penn America.
Mhm.
Tennessee, when she went to New York, she asked them. She's a chair out here at Penn Oakland. She asked them about her getting a position on the board of directors, and they so many words said you have to have money. And you go to the National Book Awards, and they have like representatives of the publishing industry and people who are not involved in book publishing, like Ralph Lauren, a representative from Ralph Lauren. So all these awards are sort of like tainted by money, and the juries don't run them. So they overlooked three women finalists
Right.
and gave the award to Percival, who was not under consideration.
Right. Well, I mean, reading the Times coverage of this, the New York Times coverage of this, apparently, uh, the the board members couldn't come up with a majority winner amongst three female finalists, and then they went to a fourth uh, to the fiction jury, and then they got the majority vote for personal, and that's sort of the procedure for for the Pulitzers. So why do you object to
I
how they
didn't, I,
did?
I didn't, I didn't read it that way. What I read was that he wasn't even nominated on the board among the list of nominations,
Right, he wasn't on the final list that they voted for.
and then the board selected him.
Right, the board went to a fourth, the fiction juries, uh, their choice, which was Percival, and then the full board then voted.
Well, it becomes very confusing because
Yeah.
Literary Hub had a different interpretation, which is where I got my information from. Lit Hub.
Yeah.
But anyway, the board, the people who run the board, regardless of the juries and all these awards, have the final say, and often it leads to a disaster. For example, the late Robert Maynard, who's a friend of mine, who's the first black publisher of a major newspaper, the Oakland Tribune. He's on one of these juries, and he warned the board that Janet Cook's um, story about a Washington D.C. family that was so depraved that they were giving children or a child heroin,
Mhm.
which is their image of, which is the white media's image of Black Americans. We so low down that we're capable of giving children heroin. Robert Maynard warned them that this was a fake. They went on an award. Janet Cooks
Oh yeah.
gave her an award anyway, and they were embarrassed because it turned out to be a fraud, and she never recovered from that. I mean, white plagiarists and white people even accused of sexual harassment, like Jeffrey Tubin, they get their jobs back. But for black and minority, brown or whatever, I mean, this is a career-ending. One mess up
Yeah.
is a career-ending problem thing.
One shot. You get one shot. That's it.
And in the past, they've had some curious, like they gave him a Pulitzer Award. Darrell Pinckney brought this to our attention in the New York Review of Books. The 1920s, they gave an award to a white woman who was writing about Black life, and I think that she wrote one novel about a Black woman who had 8 children by 8 different men. Another popular image that you get in the press to this day.
Mhm.
And another was about a Black preacher who mistakenly married his daughter. I mean, incest thing's real big. They love that. I mean, Ralph Ellison, and Diana Johnson remarked that this incest thing attracts largely white audiences. This is what Diana Johnson said about this fascination. So they pretty much they pretty much are sort of like a white nationalist outfit. And once in a while they'll give something to a minority or
All right, but basically, your beef with the prizes isn't that they awarded Percival Everett. I mean, he's won a lot of awards. Penn Oakland awarded him this year and for previous novels. But you're saying that the whole process is what? Because I mean, because there were African Americans on the board.
Yeah, well,
Who,
you look at the pictures. I posted a picture of the Pulitzer board, and it's mostly a white operation. And it's been my experience that the white women in these awards drop being feminists and they become like daughters of patriarchy.
oh, wait a minute, but Ishmael, there were some African Americans and people of color on
They
the
have a couple.
voting jury.
They have a couple of them. Yeah, they have a few people. They have, but they don't run it. The majority are white. The majority of members on that board are white. I mean, all you have to do is look at the pictures.
So, I mean, you have Jelani Cobb, who's there with Columbia University. You have Kevin Merida, who formerly LA Times, Washington Post. You had Than Nguyen, right? Or Viet Nguyen.
Majority was still white, and I think I don't know. I don't want to say anything about Jelani Cobb. I know that he told the Columbia students who were not to get involved in the protests on the campus there.
Mhm.
So I think he's probably I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether he's part of the establishment. Wait a minute, it might even be a conflict of interest because he's a dean of journalism, graduate
Was. I think he was. I
school.
think he
He's still,
stepped.
as far as I know, he's still that.
Well, your real issue is that these.
He just fired somebody from the Columbia Journalism Review, right?
Well, the editor.
Yeah, he fired him because he
Was
writing too much about Gaza.
I did. I don't know if he fired him, but I know
Yeah,
that
he took no, he
the
took responsibility for getting rid of him.
the contract I know wasn't renewed for the Asian American who was the head of the review, Sewell Chan, also a former New York Times guy, a former Harvard guy. Uh, But your beef basically with the whole Pulitzer Prize thing with and how it dealt with Percival Everett's novel James is really
I haven't read the
it's
novel. I've read,
right,
I've read, I've read Huckleberry Finn.
right.
As a matter of fact, I've written about Huckleberry Finn in the New Literary History compiled by Vernon Solers, professor of Harvard. I wrote something about Huckleberry Finn. So, but I haven't read the sequel. I guess this is a sequel.
Well, it's a reimagination, right,
Yeah. Okay.
of
Okay.
calling Jim James.
Yeah. Well, I haven't read it.
But
I,
but
yeah.
but your criticism of the way this was handled was
Well,
is
I think his award is tainted because of the controversy.
yeah.
And my point of view is that this is not the first controversy these book awards have had.
But
You know,
your point also is it's an institutional thing, right?
well,
It's
but I've suggested that Penn America move to Oakland because we don't have all this money. I mean, I was I looked at a list of the money that supports the Pulitzers and just a lot of money, and I think they could cut costs and they would be probably scandal free if they moved Penn America out of New York and had us handle it. As a matter of fact, they cut us off. I don't know whether you know that.
no.
So we have to make donations. Tennessee and I are going to make donations for this year's awards. But all of a sudden they dropped us after saying we couldn't raise money and that they would subsidize us. And then they, excuse me, went back on that. So we're on our own. But anyway, Columbia University might not be the right place to sponsor the awards after they capitulated to Trump. So that even taints the awards more. They didn't drop Middle Eastern studies and African studies. They put them in receivership or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a wackadoodle administration. They got this woman who was a former CEO of wrestling, Linda McMahon, or
Right.
excuse me, Secretary of Education, and she wants to design the Harvard curriculum. And I made a mock. I made a drew a mock of, did a parody of what kind of a satire, what kind of curriculum she would propose. But anyway, uh,
Well, just to finish
like like in the economics department, how to file for bankruptcy, or different things, or history, triumph and glory in the age of Trump and stuff like that, But I don't, but she wants to just. But anyway, they capitulated to the Trump administration. That even taints the awards even further.
yeah.
And I suggested that Howard University or the Pulitzer family, they're still involved in these awards, designate Howard University or the University of New Mexico as the sponsors of the awards.
So your real criticism is how to make awards or the awards industry more fair and more inclusive. That's always been a criticism that you've had. I mean, that's you
Well, I would like to have as many, you know, I like to see more as much diversity on the people who are behind the awards as among the jury.
and basically this has always been one of the things about the before Columbus Foundation was started to get away from tokenism to get to bring about
Right,
inclusion
right.
and to recognize not just writers, one or two writers, but all the writers out there, all the
Right,
voices.
right. Well, we recognized Percival before they did, at least Penn Oakland did, and we also recognized the Palestinian writer who's very happy to receive the American Book Award. He said that the IDF kind of went easy on him when he was in Israeli custody because he had received our award. He's very pleased to get that, and they acknowledged in the New York and other places, New Yorker Magazine, other places that we'd given before Columbus Foundation had given him the award. So we always seem to be ahead of them. I mean, they've adopted National Book Award, put on their board or put on gave membership to people we gave awards to in the 1970s. So they seem to be behind because the Anglo establishment in the East is behind. They won't acknowledge. They have a new uh, Hispanic editor of the New York Times Book Review.
Right.
And I asked him, was he going to acknowledge the flowering of Hispanic literature that's happened over the last 50 years, which they won't acknowledge. And he never answered me. But we'll have somebody interview him.
You know, it's funny. We're talking about this, and I want to spend just this time because it's so important to a writer, these awards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are recognized by something like the Pulitzers or the National Book Awards, I mean, it can make or break a career. And yet the door is so small that it's like you can fit one writer through at a time. And I know that because of Before Columbus Foundation and the American Book Awards, it's the recognition is for more than just one. It's not just a token. And I think that's to your credit, having started.
Well, at the Miami International Book Fair,
Yeah,
5 Native American writers received American Book Awards, and that was noted by Indian Country, the Native American newspaper. And I mean, they wear the tokens out. National Book Award. They've given one writer, Native American writer, so many awards that she ought to be embarrassed. But I got the whole thing when I went to Library of Congress. She got up there and made a speech about Saul Bellow, praising Saul Bellow. I said, I guess that's how she got over. Because Saul Bellow, I mean, only in the United States would somebody so provincial and bigoted be considered a great writer. Saul Bellow. Racist too. Ray, don't forget about that.
Well,
got up there and praised him. I said, okay, there it is.
Well, all right. Henderson the Rainmaker. Anyway.
Yes, Mr. Sandler's Planet.
Yeah.
Where they got a black guy as a flasher, which is one of the favorite image of Jewish men in Nazi cartoons. Flashers.
Yeah, he's Saul Bellow. I mean, if people still remember Saul Bellow,
kinda.
He's been eclipsed by
kinda
Roth and
oh God, don't be mentioning these people's names.
All the Jewish writers.
The human stain. The human stain.
Well, look,
black students have so much power on campus that if you insult them, they can bring the campus down. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Hey, Ishmael, we met in a literary program where Jewish writers were the thing, right? I mean,
yeah, right. They were. Yeah. But some of the best are overlooked. For example, one of the best Jewish writers I know was the late Ron Sukenik.
Oh yeah, Ron Sukenik. Yeah.
Wrote this fabulous novel, got neglected.
And we met over the late Stanley Elkin.
Right.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to point out though, and the reason
before you continue,
yeah,
the leader of the Israeli feminist avant-garde writers said I was the only one who encouraged her when she was my student at the University of California, Berkeley. So there might be another generation, but I don't know why some of the Jewish male writers in this country are so bigoted, not only toward black people, but toward women, including Philip Roth, whose former wife, Claire Bloom, said had an irrepressible rage against women. Yet these women give him awards. These women, they must like that because they give him awards. They gave him awards.
Well, this is the thing about all voices. You don't hear. You hear the group that gets chosen. The gatekeepers choose one voice, be it Jewish American,
right,
African American,
right,
and you have always been.
The majority are white, though. The majority of people that he selected.
Well, you've always been the guy to kick down the doors and say, "Let them all in. Let's hear them all."
Yeah,
and that's why I think it's important to hear this idea that you have that maybe the Pulitzer should let another university.
Oh, Columbia, yeah, right, because Columbia University sold out.
Yeah,
and that taints their ability to give these awards because they are going to eliminate. Say, well, at least Harvard stood up to them, stood up
Yeah,
to these people, but Columbia University just folded right away and wants Donald Trump to design their curriculum.
right.
Yeah.
And also, well, done, not just design the curriculum, but essentially become the head of the university, right?
And the head of Lincoln Center and the head of all these cultural institutions. So
Yeah. Well, let's move on to this broader idea that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is what you know is the idea of diversity has become known as DEI. This general attack on DEI is now such a thing, and it's because of Trump, and it's affecting
he's
everything.
got people. No, he's got people behind us. They got some sinister, a sinister crowd behind the scenes advising him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're here in the Bay Area, and we see that the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation is pulling money that has any connection to DEI, and this is sort of the fallout
Yeah,
from.
well, but black people have been through this before. I mean, Woodrow Wilson
Oh yeah.
got rid of all the black people in the civil service, so it's nothing new for us. But I think DEI is just the same old Willie Horton in a cap and gown because you see, the old demagogues, they were honest. They have an N word in every sentence. But these new guys are from Harvard and Yale, including Christopher Rufo, who started all this stuff. And I think he's I don't think he didn't go to Harvard. I think he went to the Harvard Extension School. And somebody brought that up and they jumped on her. She said, well, he went. Black woman said, well, he went to Harvard Extension. But anyway, he's one of these guys who's cynically using terms like woke, and nobody knows what that means for them. I know how the William Melvin Kelly used the term in 1962 in the New York Times, 1982, excuse me, in the New York Times. He meant the jazz glossary that every time an outsider tried to understand, or every time they figured out what jazz expression meant, the jazz people had moved on to something else. That's what he meant by woke. But they done took the thing and mangled it and twisted it all around and made it all racist in order to appeal to that crowd. The MAGA people. So I think that the new demagogues like Steve Bannon, and there was a guy what's the guy with the eye patch who led the
Oh
insurrection?
yes,
Yeah,
Stuart Rhodes.
those guys that come from Yale and Harvard.
Yeah.
And so that's what the new demagogues, instead of the old demagogues like Herman Talmadge, Senator Bilbo, who I remember when I was a kid, and all these guys who were really out and out racist, they kind of cleaned it up a little bit. But they mean black people. Now they had this kid named what's his name, George Wolf or somebody on CNN. I call him a black conservative in training.
Mhm.
He made a rookie mistake. He was on with someone, they were debating DEI. He said, well, this is just a program to make white folks feel guilty. She had to advise him that it also meant women, the disabled, blah, 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 a whole bunch. But he singled out black people. So they're just winning votes by picking on black folks. That's been their strategy since the Southern strategy, uh, which was introduced by Eisenhower, not by Nixon. Eisenhower, Herman Truman, excuse me, uh, President Truman, Harry Truman, made a speech before 65,000 black people. And he said Eisenhower is touring the South and talking to Southern governors. What do you think he's talking about? So the Southern strategy begins there, because Eisenhower was a bigot. He was against Brown versus Board of Education. He was against segregation, desegregation of the Army, and a whole bunch of things. So that's where that began. So they just feel like they can get votes by picking on black people election after election.
Yeah, but
These other groups are like collateral damage.
but this is like a 2025 version where we're rolling back everything, civil rights, rights, and I
but
just want to
they,
get your sense about you stood up for diversity. You
they
stood up.
don't. They don't. I mean, this will never be a white nationalist nation. It never has been. It never will be. I
So
mean,
what?
that's
But
why
what?
that's why they're bringing in these people from South Africa.
Yeah.
He wanted to bring in people from Norway, and that's what the abortion things are all about. They figure that they're going to be outnumbered by Asian Americans whose birth rate is accelerating, Hispanics and others. The black birth rates remains the same, but these other groups are accelerating their birth rates, and that scared them because they feel that the white race will be doomed in this country.
Well,
In
yeah.
the West, the so-called West, the West. What American. When I go to Europe, I don't hear anybody talking about the West. I mean, it's 55 culturally distinct countries. But in these little backwoods places, primitive overseas backwoods colonies here, they call it the West. They figure that the white birth rate is going to be diminished, and they're going to be overtaken by the heathens.
Well,
And you know that's their fear.
so they're exporting these Afrikaners, and I guess they're hoping that they have high fertility rates so that the population of racists grow here and they benefit from the 14th Amendment. They can have birth, uh, birth citizenship.
Well, I think a lot of white South Africans said they want to stay where they are and build society there. The newspapers overlooked that. That
Yeah,
the white South Africans said they're going to stay. Well, they're doing very well down there. They own most of the land,
right. Well,
and there's no genocide taking place as Trump says. I mean, who says anything that comes to mind and doesn't get challenged by the press?
he has to justify bringing them in, though, so they can justify the refugee
Yeah, I
status.
know, but I mean, he lies all the time,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the press just laughs along with him and tries to humor him.
So, all right, but overall, we jumped to the Afrikaners, but basically, with this attack on DEI, you've been the real the person standing up, for diversity. So your response to the attacks is not that we've seen this before, but to come back stronger. What is your strategy to overcome, this the negative.
My strategy is that they try to be for and they fail all the time.
Yeah.
That's what my novel is, Mumbo Jumbo is about. That there's something about black culture that causes mass hysteria. So I
Right.
know that they try to ban ragtime, they try to ban bebop, they try to ban black dance, they tried to ban jazz, they tried to ban black literature, and what happens is that certain quarters in this country might despise black culture, but it's part of the global mainstream. Black culture is part of the global mainstream. So I watched the martial arts on TV, and I found that in Lithuania, Bangkok, and other places, Brazil, some of the combatants enter the arena accompanied by hip hop music.
Right.
Hip hop music is part of the global mainstream. Uh,
Right.
the black literature, I wrote it, black literature is taught. I went to China, and there were dozens of scholars who've been assigned to study not only black literature, but Hispanic, Asian American literature. They know about Frank Chin over there.
Mhm.
Japan, they have in Kyoto, Japan, where I visited. They have a Langston Hughes Club named for the black author. I've attended conferences in Europe, Paris, and Germany where scholars from all over the world come to study Black American literature, from India, from Europe. So, and I've visited universities in Europe where Black literature is taught that are older, that were founded before Europeans came to North America, like the University of Rome, Bologna, other places. So Heidelberg, Black
Well, Ishmael, if black culture is so much a part of the mainstream, uh,
the global mainstream.
the global, well, still part of the global mainstream. Why is racism still so prevalent? Why do we have that? Because a sense of jealousy, a sense of what? Why do you think?
Well, they I'm reading in preparation for my play. zippity doo dah. I'm reading Joel Chandler Harris, who was a stenographer for stories told to him by three so-called slaves on a turnip plantation, and he made a lot of money. Then Disney. I just watched a salute to Joel Chandler Harris. So I'm reading his work, and he believed that the Anglo-Saxon race was superior to not only black people but also to Chinese. He talks about the Chinese Exclusion Act, how that's a great thing. So you run you're up against people who believe they're like God, like little ain't gods or something. And this Aryan thing, which my play is based on,
Right.
is a myth that you know blonde, blue-eyed, super white people invaded India 1,000 years ago. Turns out to be a fraud. As a matter of fact, Indian scientists have found that Indians have a common origin, examining their genome,
Mhm.
and so that's a lie. But you have people in the United States calling themselves Aryans. I mean, the thing for the pool for Aryans has become so diminished that you have Hungarians call themselves Aryan.
So what you're saying is Aryans have been subject to diversity.
Well, I mean, I don't, but no, I'm saying that that was a myth. That
Oh,
yeah, Nietzsche and all these people believe that stuff. Nietzsche and some of the German philosophers believe that humanity originated in the Himalayas or somewhere. That's how you got all this Eastern stuff that some of the German philosophers believe, including Nietzsche, and that the Zoroaster, that the Superman came from Persia, all this kind of junk. And so that's where they get this Aryan thing. And Hitler was into this Aryan thing, even though he didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. He was like a little guy, who had a whole lot of psychological problems.
yeah. All right. So tell me, since you segued into Life Among the Aryans, that's your play. You wrote that book. When did you wrote that book a while ago?
No, it's a play. And 2018, it premiered in New York at the New York Poets Cafe. And it predicts the insurrection. And so Life Among the Aryans is about a right-wing white family with all their grievances against Asian Americans, Hispanics, and gay people and all that kind of stuff. And it's like a working class white family. And a black scientist, not a black con man steals a formula from an MIT student that turns white people to black.
Mm.
And so you have a Jewish president and a black woman who's head of the FBI, and a reparations bill is passed. And so they have to decide whether they're going to remain poor and how all these complaints about the other, so-called the other, right? Or whether they're going to go get the money. So that's the plot.
Yeah. So you wrote it as a satire in 2018, and now it's
Being performed starting May 16th.
yeah in Oakland.
Friday,
Yeah.
at the Black Repertory Group.
Yeah, and people can get their tickets if they're watching now on YouTube. I've got the link there. You can get your tickets on eventbrite.com.
And there's a telephone number 510 excuse me, 510-652-2120. And as somebody who's been in a few of my plays, and I really appreciate all the sacrifices you made, putting your bills and out of your own pocket to do plays in New York. You were my first play, Harbor City.
Yeah.
That we,
Oh, you're talking about me. You're
yeah,
talking about me.
that the tickets are $25, man. I mean, God, you go to one of these Broadway shows and you have to take out a second mortgage.
They are expensive in Broadway, so the tickets are very reasonably priced. I'm going on Saturday.
Great.
I'm going to see Life Among the Aryans. Are you surprised that what started out as a kind of a satire is sort of come to life?
I predicted the Pope. I predicted we are going to have a black Pope in my last novel.
Yeah.
You
We
know,
almost did. We almost did.
what we did.
Oh, I actually we did. We
Yeah, the census says he was a black. He was black, and his whole family was black.
So what is that about the Pope? Pope Leo XIV. I because we need an intravenous Pope. He is was born Robert uh, Prevost.
His father was black, and his mother was a Creole. See, they use the term Creole when they want to claim someone. So the one drop rule doesn't apply there.
Yeah.
You know, so he's a Creole. He's not black. It's like Tiger Woods. They said, well, we don't know what he is, Asian American. I don't know, Asian. But when he messed up, they say black.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, they play around with this one drop rule. Anyway, he had black parents.
Yeah.
And that according to the census in New Orleans. And so I had a black pope in my novel, my last novel, The Terrible Fours, a black pope who gets married.
Yeah.
So I was the one that predicted the demise of the Soviet Union when he was the head of the CIA, didn't know it was going to happen. Gates. So some of the stuff I write comes true, and this insurrection came true.
So your fiction is pre-truth,
I'm a prophet.
right? Yeah.
I mean, and writing novels and all this other stuff is merely a way I convey my prophecies.
Yeah. All right. Tell me about you. I've been.
I'm going to write James. I'm going to write a reimagining version of James.
How would you you'd reimagine
Well,
James?
he reimagined Huckleberry Finn.
Right.
I'm going to reimagine his novel. Oh, just joking.
I know you know Percival pretty well.
Great guy, man.
Yeah.
He's terrific. I mean, unlike these other people who are all in the cutthroat thing because there are only a few slots open in this missionary situation we have here, where they say, "Well, here's one. This native over here, get him."
Well, look, that's the important. I mean, that's the significance of what the criticism earlier we were talking about the Pulitzers is because there's room for one. If there's one Asian, one successful Asian, do you want two? Do you want three?
Oh, no, we don't. No, then there goes the neighborhood.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's one black, one Hispanic. Well, I mean, that's the tokenism that you were criticizing.
My family moved into a white neighborhood, man. People couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And so they handled it by doing target practice in the backyard. And then other blacks moved and they all moved out. Same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like Obama, he's in Indonesia. He's raised in Indonesia.
Yeah.
There's only one or two people. When I go to Hawaii, I'm one of the few black people down there.
Yeah.
They don't even pay attention to black issues.
So, all right.
So they can always tolerate one or two.
Yeah. All right. So, speaking of prominent blacks in American media these days.
Oh God, must we?
Well, no. I think we should. I want to talk. I want to talk about Sean Combs.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
because you mentioned. I saw you mention.
Well, maybe he should have sought a cabinet post.
Sean Combs.
Yeah, because he had a bunch of rapists in the cabinet.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, they're not going to bother them. Watch Me Too. What I wrote was Sean Combs will wake Me Too up because he seemed to doze off as all these rapists were being nominated for cabinet posts. Kennedy was accused of rape, and this other guy, the Secretary of Defense, was accused of rape and so on. They're all, and then you got the president who's charged by 16 women of sexual aggression or whatever, and he even got convicted on one case, right?
Well, he's liable. He was liable for.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Cosby and Sean Combs, all of them should have run for president, or sought a cabinet post.
They were shooting low. They
like it when a black guy gets involved in something like this because they can sell out. I could see them. I could see them the other day really salivating. Oh boy, just think of the ratings. OJ, the OJ trial saved CNN. You know that, right?
I didn't know that, but I was working in television.
New York Times, when the CNN ratings were low, they said, calling on OJ, calling on, the press spent $400 million in Los Angeles during that year. And the ratings of CNN went through the roof and all that. And everybody got paid for OJ. That's the way it happens with black guys. Everybody got paid but OJ.
But
They stuck
OJ.
together. So the same thing will happen to this depraved creature, John Combs, who was made by the capitalists, made by Pepsi Cola. Remember Pepsi Cola held him as a role model?
Yeah, yeah.
Because he was driving. Remember that's ad where he's driving a Pepsi Cola truck, and the white guy said, "Oh, I gotta get me one of those." And then New York Times endorsed him. They just about gave him the Entrepreneur of the Year award. Talk about he was, they knew his background. They knew.
Well, they're finding out today, as just within the last few hours, his girlfriend Cassie Ventura went on the stand, and she spilled her guts. She was talking about all this.
What about the 999 guys who was up there at Epstein's place?
Well, yeah. I mean,
And Trump said, "Well, we don't need to give their names because a lot of those guys are innocent." He's up there too.
yeah.
It was Bill
Well,
Gates. Bill Gates was up there so often his wife divorced him. So why don't the daughters of patriarchy, like Chris Jansen and all of them, who wanted two pedophiles to be pope? She wanted Cardinal Dolan to be pope. He got a pedophile scandal out there in Minnesota and everything. New York Times wrote about it. So why don't they, investigate that? The 999 are the most powerful men in the West, and the only one they exposed is Prince Andrew because he's the poorest among them.
yeah. I don't. Yeah, he wasn't king. He could have been.
But Bill Gates is up there.
Yeah, Gates.
Elon Musk is up there as Epstein's guest. So why don't they make a big thing about that? They know better than do that. They know better than take those guys on.
So now they're taking on Sean Combs
They always
because,
have the black guy involved in some kind of scandal like that, man. All the way back to Birth of a Nation.
well, the one thing that Combs, I
And
guess,
you notice I predicted this the other day. I said the guys that run the networks, these patriarchs who have problems of their own. Remember the guy at CBS, he had to resign because he was, wrong. And a bunch of those guys have had to resign. They'll assign women to do the story. And that's what's happening. They got women carrying the water on this story.
the fact that the trial is in New York, it's not televised. You got to get the updates, via text from.
Well, they got a perverse audience that's interested in this kind of thing. So, they'll make some money.
Yeah,
They'll make some money.
someone will. All
But,
right.
but black people were not responsible for creating those brands, OJ nor Diddy Holmes. But when they mess up, here comes the collective guilt.
Mm.
So we all became OJ, and now we're all Diddy Combs. What's next? What next? The capitalist system creates these people. Black people don't have the power to create people like that, brand names like that.
And what's going to happen to what is this? Sorry about that, Ishmael.
That's fine.
That must be Puff. That must be Puff.
MAGA.
Someone calling here. I have to get rid of the call. So Ishmael, what happens to what's the fallout to the black community? You know as the Combs story.
I think we're used to it. I mean, minorities get this all over the world. If you go to Switzerland, the Italians are the scapegoat.
Yeah.
If you go to China, the Koreans are. They.
How do we survive?
I went to Japan. I said, "What about the Yakuza, the mob? Oh, those are Koreans." Yeah.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Yeah.
You just have to take it. And some of my people talk about leaving the country. Some have left. I say stay here. It's not as interesting in other places as it is here. So I don't know how the black community is going to respond to it. They don't have any power in TV. You saw what happened with Joy Reid. They have no power to commentariat. You know what happened when Joy Reid got too aggressive or, told the truth. They fired her.
Yeah,
And none of her colleagues came. None of the black colleagues at MSNBC came to her defense, except only Rachel Maddow did.
Well, yeah. Well, she had the power. She had more power. And
Well, they don't have any power. You admit it. I mean, they don't have any power.
yeah,
They got rid of uh, Katie, what's her name? The one that comes in on Saturday. They cleaned up all the DEI stuff.
kind of. Well, this is the thing about we were seeing how the fallout of DEI, the anti-DEI stuff, the fallout is everywhere.
Mhm.
Philanthropy and media, um, and he,
Well, they got rid of the black head of Joint Chiefs of Staff,
right,
and we got somebody really, really competent like this new Secretary of Defense.
right. Oh, yeah, Mr. Hegseth.
Who puts all his this top secret stuff on Facebook or somewhere. I don't know.
Signal, a signal chat.
Wherever.
I didn't talk to you about Trump's 100 days, and now we're
Yeah,
into the next 100 or the
yeah.
next 1,000 days, and we see how well that's going. We've got we're importing racists now from South
Yeah,
Africa.
well, this is why the corporate media is like just like worthless. Okay, now I saw Nicole Wallace yesterday talking to. There was this correspondent who had a show, and now she's in the field. I think she's, you know, what I'm talking about. Who had a show on NBC, MSNBC, and she's now a correspondent. Like she was in. I think she was in Ukraine or something. I don't know. I've forgotten her name. Wagner. Her last name is Wagner.
Why? Oh, right, right. She's actually Asian,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So
She
yeah,
she she was on yesterday with Nicole Wallace,
yeah.
and they're saying, well, the new thing about the new line in the media about why Kamala lost is that she didn't go on the Joe Rogan show. That
Is
all
that, is that what they're saying?
yeah, they're saying that she should have reached out to the lost young white men and of the manosphere, and the young white men in the United States living in their mother's basement, and they're living down there and they don't have jobs, and their mother voted for Trump because they don't want the young white men in the basement. They want and all this sort of junk, and and Kamala should have reached out to, and blah blah blah. So those two were pushing that line yesterday. They got this guy named Scott somebody. He got a book out about the lost young white men, the most privileged group in the history of mankind.
The lonely
Yeah,
incel.
who we have to feel sorry for next? They got this show on there called Good Next Door Neighbors or something, with this guy who was a star of Mad, MAD. Remember that old show?
Mad.
Yeah, the lost white man. You know, he's he can't get along with his children, and his wife has left him for a black man. And guess what the black man does? Athlete,
Oh, Hadley.
basketball. And then in the most recent episode, he gets his family back and everything's okay. And what happens? His representative is a Japanese American, right? Who tries to keep him out of trouble. What's happened is he's lost all his money. So now he's stealing from his rich neighbors. This guy, we have to feel sorry for that. And so finally on the day that he and his wife go back to enroll their kids in Princeton, they fall in love again and all. And then, that guy, he's left. And then the last scene, he's being beaten up by an art dealer. His gang.
No, what
Possibly,
is
wait, possibly Jewish. And so we have this great Gunga Din moment where the Japanese guy, his friend, rushes out of the restaurant to help him and is hit by a car. Like Gunga Din. I hope you enjoyed your water, sir.
where is this now?
It's on Apple TV, man. I mean, it's interesting. I watch it every week.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
what is it?
what's that guy called? The guy who's in Mad.
Uh,
Ham. Who?
John Hamm.
John Hamm.
John
Yeah,
Hamm.
he's taking the role that Michael Douglas used to play. The
Right.
alien, the lost white man who's the real oppressed. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody's against him and blaming him for everything. And you got this DEI stuff and wokeness and political correctness, and he can't say like what did Katie Turk? Katie Turk said that the reason for MAGA is that people couldn't tell the jokes they told 10 years ago. So he can't tell the jokes he told 10 years ago.
So now they're here in 2025. This is the new white narrative.
Yeah, well, but what about this narrative? I couldn't get this published in the United States. I had to go to Spain. You know how Trump won the election by saying that Kamala Harris gave good blowjobs.
What?
Yes, I got it. I got the quote.
He said that at one of his rallies.
She gained power by giving good blowjobs. He said the same thing about Clinton.
This is what Trump said.
Yeah, and everybody said he won because of economics. Remember, they tried to say, "Why don't you talk about economics?" They kept, "Why don't you talk about economics?" No, he knew what he's doing. He played.
Where did Trump say that? I hadn't
New
heard
York
that.
Times quotes him saying it. I'll send it to you.
All right.
And so I tried to say that in a newspaper, and they cut it out. One of these daughters of patriarchy posing as feminists.
But you're able to say it in Spain, though.
Yeah. Well, I have to go abroad to get my op-eds published.
Well, just like I have my column in the Philippines.
Right. You know,
I have my columns in the Philippines.
And so what you have is like the media commentary mostly white men who don't have a clue.
Yeah.
You know, they live in New York and they go to the same clubs, 4-hour restaurants and all that, 4-hour lunches.
Yeah.
These 5-star restaurants and all this kind of stuff.
So you were saying on MSNBC, Nicole Wallace and Alex Wagner, that was her name. Alex, they were pushing a narrative about it.
Yeah. Well, they got it from the white guys who are saying that she should have appealed to the MAGAs. Maybe she should appeal to those guys who defecated in the Capitol.
Kamala Harris didn't go on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think where is Kamala now?
She did a great campaign, man. And another thing they can't say. I interviewed. I think I told you I interviewed Don Lemon.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's free, so he can say what he wants to say. And he said that the network people tell him go easy on Trump because the MAGA people, they buy our products too. They tell him, and he said, yeah, she was defeated because of racism. You can't find anybody. Most people in the commentary will not mention racism as a factor in her defeat.
Yeah. So no, I believe that. But do you think she can come back, or do you? Because it seems to me like she's uncertain about.
Why would she want to come back? There's a book called The Fight. I haven't read it yet, but I heard a summary of it. That the Biden and those people, the people around Biden, try to sabotage her campaign.
Yeah,
because he still thought he could win.
Right,
he thought he could win.
He's saying that now.
Yeah, he could have won. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
I think I thought Kamala Harris had maybe the best. I mean, people are saying, "Oh, she should have gone through a primary," and then other people.
Oh yeah, you had Iman say that the other day. Yeah, she'd gone through a primary. People would say, "Well, right. Maybe we're not racist after all. Maybe we should vote for her now." I mean, she's black, but that's okay with us. Something like that. Is that the way it's supposed to go?
Well, I heard a lot of
Iman said, why is Iman still there? They fired everybody else.
Yeah, that's true.
He said, the United States is a beacon of hope. I said, pal, you'll learn, pal.
Yeah. We see Newsom turning right. So
Trump called him new scum. They didn't pick that up. The press, they're so scared. Oh, Mr. President, you look so good today. How do you keep in shape like that? Oh, now you look like you're in great health.
Well, all those burgers. But all right, but back to Kamala. What is going to happen to her? Does she come?
I don't know.
Come back as governor?
Why would she want to come back in politics? She ran a terrific campaign.
Yeah, I thought so also. But now I'm hiding my Kamala T-shirts.
But I mean, he said that she gained political power by giving blowjobs, and The majority of white women voted for Trump anyway.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's the scary
And
thing.
Joy Reid said that that's one of the reasons that Joy Reid was fired, because she kept bringing up that the white women voted for Trump 3 times.
I don't know if that's why she was fired, but ratings. How about rating? Ratings is just an excuse.
Yeah, well, I watch Morning Joe every morning, and here again, you have a lot of white guys don't have a clue about what's happening in reality.
Yeah.
But they
All right.
talk about baseball a lot. I don't know. I'm maybe they'll get me interested in baseball.
Baseball. Well, summer game. It's coming up.
Yeah.
All right, Ishmael. Just to wrap up, where are we now?
What do you mean?
What's going to happen to America? I mean,
Oh,
we had
this thing is not going to last. I mean, this is the Alamo. This is these people's Alamo. Their little wagon trains and everything, and all those hitting them with bows and arrows. I mean, this Anglo thing is coming to an end. That's the problem. The Anglo domination of American culture and society is coming to an end.
yeah.
And that's why the panic.
This is the last
Last
gasp.
roundup. This is the last roundup, man. Those
Yeah.
people are finished.
So we should be optimistic that we'll turn a corner at some point.
Well, they lost the culture wars in the 70s. They just become aware of it. That's why the panic. They lost the culture war in the 70s.
Right. And so now though the narrative is, oh, the left, they got too woke, they got too radical, and now we're seeing this response, this right wing response, because the left got too giddy, the progressives got too giddy. Now,
Yeah, well, they're going to lose probably the House. The way some of some local elections are going, I don't know. You know, we've been through this before. I mean, at least Black Americans have been through it before,
right?
where we survived presidents who were slave traders, and slave traders like Alexander Hamilton, that crowd.
So Ishmael, you sound hopeful. You sound hopeful.
I'm just reading history and reading the situation as it is.
You don't sound like the trade wars, the tariffs, you don't sound as depressed as a lot of people.
Well, I think the interesting thing about that is that most of his policies are hurting red states.
Yeah.
And so when their grandparents and their parents are expelled from nursing homes and stuff like that, and they cut off Medicaid, and they'll feel it. So I call it suicide by vote. You got a crackpot who's head of the health department. There's some new formula they've discovered that can cure pancreatic cancer and other things, and he's holding that up. He's against it. I read about it in Science magazine.
Talking about
there's some new discovery that cures a lot of diseases.
Yeah.
And it's an experimental stage, but I think there's socially hopeful. And crackpot Kennedy is trying to suppress it.
Yeah, well, he's trying to get rid of fluoride, because we know how good it is for the
so a lot of Black people are going to die because of these policies. Like 3 million people in Africa will die by the end of the year because they cut off aid to Africa, India, and other places. And because they overturned the Environmental Protection Agency, Black people are going to get cancer in these cancer alleys where these factories are and pollution. And so a lot of people are going to die.
Yeah.
Because they elected this guy. I call it suicide by vote.
And then we're going to wake up and
I don't know. The only thing I know is that this will never be a white nationalist nation. I know that. They can import all the white Africans in the world. It's still not going to be a white nation.
And on that note, people should go see.
It's like the lost cause of the Confederacy.
Yeah. And so on that note, people should go see Life Among the Aryans, the Black Refugee Group in Oakland, May 15th to June 1st. If you're watching on the screen, eventbrite.com for tickets. They got a big gala on Thursday. I'm not going to that.
Yeah, you don't have to wear a tuxedo anyway. When we say gala, we mean come as you are, actually.
I'm sorry. And just be happy.
We like to use that word.
Yeah. Well, it's a happy
gala.
celebratory thing.
Let me get my white dinner jacket out here.
Oh God, I rented a white dinner jacket for the game. No, I'm not. I'm coming. I'm going to be there on Saturday. I'll be there
So
on.
when are you going on your next tour?
I'm going to. I'm going to Canada.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to Canada.
Why don't you stay up there?
Well, I may have to if they don't let me back
Why
in.
would you want to come back here?
I'm reading Flight to Canada in honor of my visit to. I'm going to go to Canada to do fringe festivals there. I did something at the Marsh last night talking about the Pope.
Mhm.
I didn't talk about him being black, but I did talk him. I had my mom. I was doing my mom, bringing in the Pope into the world, um, and so I did that. That's a new show, or part of the new show I'm doing at the Marsh. And then, yeah, so I'm still, and I'm waiting for the next Ishmael Reed production so I can, audition
Yeah,
and
you can audition for it. We are casting for a rabbit and a fox.
oh, love to be a rabbit. Oh, a fox. I know it may not be crafty enough to be a
Yeah.
fox, but a
So,
rabbit. No otters. No
well,
amphibians.
you did a great job in the Shine Challenge. Did a
I
great
know. Thank you for that. I
job.
enjoyed.
And the
I
polar
enjoyed.
bear and the sharks stole the show. I said, "Wow, more animals, more animals."
Or I love the. Do you- do you have to does a rabbit appear as a rabbit or as a human?
No, you have to get a costume. Carla's going to direct this play,
Oh, well,
so
then
I know it'll be done right. You know,
well, I think, my ears are not rabbitous, but I could, maybe
we'll see. We'll put you in a rabbit costume.
be a rabbit. Hey, so Ishmael, good luck on the play,
Mhm.
um, Life Among the Aryans. People should take it as a satire of the present day,
Mhm.
or should they
Right.
take
You
it
know,
as a history?
this is present day.
Yeah. You were so prescient in thinking about all this, back when you first wrote it. Uh, what are you thinking about? What's the next thing? I guess you've already said what the next thing is.
Mhm.
That this is the last stand. We should. This is the final days.
Alamo.
Yeah, the Alamo.
You know how it's taught in history texts, history textbooks
Yeah,
that are creating generation after generation of bigots.
yeah.
Santa Anna of the Mexican forces is considered a villain, right?
Hmm.
He's an abolitionist. The people
Ah,
he said that slavery was disgusting, and Mexico had banished slavery. So the people inside the Alamo, they were the slaveholders.
so that's why, this is an important chapter.
Mhm.
The Alamo is an important symbol
Yeah,
of this last chapter.
yeah.
So you've given us some hope. You've given us some hope, Ishmael.
I'm just reading the cards, reading the cowrie shells.
I appreciate that.
Oh,
Ishmael Reed,
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
author, playwright.
You
If
know,
you're
Molly did another art criticism for us.
Oh yeah, my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, and also the reason why I'm not going to the gala is because on Thursday I'm having a poet laureates night in my community,
Great, great,
and
great.
so I'll have to submit some poetry about, what I call the rhubards.
Sounds good. Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's
All
go.
right. Ishmael, thank you very much. Thank you for
Talk
being
to you
part
later.
of, the Pan Oakland podcast.
Okay. Well, thank you. Talk to you later.